The Lost Pear. The fog rolled in like a living entity, consuming the Columbia River's edge with its spectral embrace. Ella Cameron's Ford Explorer crawled along the forgotten road, tires crunching against gravel and forgotten memories. Portland's outskirts, 2014. A landscape where history whispered between abandoned structures and dense Pacific Northwest forests. 10 years of investigative journalism had taught Ella one crucial lesson. Every secret has a breaking point. And this pier, this decaying wooden skeleton stretching into the misty river, was about to reveal its most guarded truth. Her grandfather's last words echoed in her mind. "The pier holds everything," he'd mumbled, his hand gripping her wrist with unexpected strength just hours before his mysterious death. Robert Harrison wasn't just a former CIA operative. He was a man who had seen things most people couldn't comprehend. The documents in her leather messenger bag felt heavy with unspoken history. Classified reports from the late 1960s, cryptic communications marked with Cold War-era encryption, photographs with deliberately obscured faces. Something significant had happened here, something that connected her family to a narrative far larger than she could imagine. As she stepped onto the pier, each wooden plank seemed to groan with reluctant memory. Water lapped quietly beneath, dark and impenetrable. The morning light struggled to break through the dense fog, creating an ethereal landscape where reality blended with shadow. A movement caught her peripheral vision. The man in the leather coat stood motionless, approximately 50 meters away. His stance suggested military training, precise, controlled, ready to react in milliseconds. Eastern European features, salt and pepper hair, eyes that had seen too much. "You shouldn't be here," he called out, his accent a subtle blend of Russian and something else, perhaps Ukrainian. Ella's hand instinctively moved toward the Glock holstered beneath her jacket. "I've been hearing that my entire career," she responded, her voice steady. The stranger didn't move. Instead, he seemed to be studying her, assessing whether she was a threat or simply another curious journalist chasing a story that was better left buried. "Your grandfather," he said. Not a question, but a statement. He knew the risks. Ella's breath caught. How did he know about her grandfather? The pier's wooden structure suddenly felt less stable. Historical research had revealed multiple unexplained incidents around this location: disappearances, cryptic government communications, unusual geographical anomalies that defied standard scientific explanation. Robert Harrison had been part of a specialized CIA unit during the height of the Cold War. A unit that dealt with more than just traditional espionage. Rumors suggested they investigated phenomena that existed in the gray areas between known science and inexplicable events. "What happened here?" Ella demanded, taking a step forward. The man's eyes flickered, a momentary vulnerability that suggested profound internal conflict. "Some truths are not meant to be uncovered," he warned. But Ella Cameron was not someone who backed down easily. Her entire career had been built on challenging narratives, exposing hidden truths, and refusing to accept convenient explanations. A sudden wind swept across the pier, carrying with it the faintest hint of something. Not quite a sound, not quite a memory, but something that existed between perception and imagination. The wooden plank beneath her foot suddenly gave way. As Ella felt herself falling, time seemed to slow. Fragments of her grandfather's life, classified missions, cryptic conversations, unexplained absences, flashed through her mind. The river's dark waters waited below, promising either revelation or oblivion. The fall lasted a second, but felt like an eternity. The cold waters of the Columbia River embraced Ella with a sharp grip, instantly piercing her to the bone. The survival instinct worked immediately. She began to swim, trying not to lose orientation in the murky water. When she surfaced, the shore looked like a ghostly line in the dense morning fog. The man in the leather coat had vanished. Only the old pier, like a mute witness, continued to stand over the water. Climbing ashore, Ella opened her messenger bag. Some documents were wet, but the main sheets were protected by a waterproof folder. She pulled them out with trembling hands. The first document was dated 1968. The stamp "Top Secret" blurred at the top. Her grandfather's handwriting, sweeping, confident, filled the pages with tiny notes. Object Z-17 presents critical interest for national security. Abnormal geophysical readings in the River Pier area indicate the possibility. The text broke off. The next pages were torn out or deliberately destroyed. Suddenly, her phone vibrated in her jacket pocket. An unknown number. "Mrs. Cameron," a male voice sounded calm and threatening simultaneously. "You should stop." "Who is this?" "Ella interceptó la iniciativa." "A friend of your grandfather, and someone who knows more about Z-17 than you can imagine." The line disconnected. At that moment, Ella noticed a strange detail on one of the documents. At the bottom of the page was a barely distinguishable stamp with coordinates. She quickly entered them into GPS. The coordinates pointed to an abandoned military base 60 miles from her current location, a base that officially never existed. Continue investigating or stop? The risk was too high, but Ella Cameron was not used to backing down in the face of threats. Ella's hands were still shaking from the cold river water as she started her explorer. The GPS coordinates burned in her mind, a precise location that seemed to whisper decades of forgotten secrets. Route 30 stretched before her, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through dense Oregon wilderness. Abandoned logging camps and forgotten military outposts dotted the landscape, remnants of a bygone era that seemed to hold their breath, waiting to be discovered. Her phone buzzed again, another unknown number. "You're making a mistake," the same male voice from earlier warned. "I'm listening," Ella responded, her journalistic instinct overriding any fear. A pause. Then, "Your grandfather was part of something bigger than you can comprehend." Project Z-17 was not a typical intelligence operation. It was different. "Different how?" she pressed. Another pause. The voice became distant, as if speaking from another time. "Some discoveries are better left buried, Miss Cameron. Your grandfather knew that. He tried to protect you." The call disconnected. Ella pulled over at a small roadside diner. The GPS showed she was just 20 miles from the mysterious coordinates. An old map spread across her dashboard revealed nothing unusual about the location, just another stretch of dense forest and rocky terrain. Inside her wet messenger bag, the partially destroyed documents seemed to pulse with unspoken history. She carefully spread them out, using a portable hairdryer from her travel kit to gently dry the delicate papers. A fragment caught her eye. Handwritten notes in her grandfather's distinctive script. Anomalous reading at 47.3 degrees north, 122.6 degrees west. Quantum displacement confirmed. Communication impossible. Recommend immediate quarantine. The rest was smudged, water damaged. Quantum displacement. Quarantine? These weren't typical intelligence terms. Something far more complex was hidden beneath the surface. Her grandfather, Robert Harrison, had been more than just a CIA operative. The few family stories she knew painted him as a brilliant physicist who worked on highly classified projects during the Cold War. But this seemed to go beyond standard government research. A truck pulled into the diner's parking lot. The driver, the man from the pier, locked eyes with her. No coincidence. He was tracking her,